listeners, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Night Cinema. As always, I am your host, Sawyer Saintson, and tonight we're talking about a movie that I adore. It's one of my favorites. It is House of a Thousand Corpses. You know, writer, director Rob Zombie. Release date was April 11th, 2003. So when it came out, I was not old enough to go without an adult, and none of my adults would take me to see it. So, you know, I had to wait until it came out on DVD and then sneak it, like any self-respecting teenager would do, right? Anyways, so our cast. We will start off with someone that everyone gives so much grief to, and I don't understand why, because I think she's great and she's perfect. And anyways, that is Miss Sherry Moon Zombie. She plays Baby Firefly. Then we have the legendary Sid Haig as Captain Spaulding. Now, listen, I'm not so much into clowns. Clowns aren't really my thing. I got kidnapped by clowns this one time. It wasn't fun. I still have PTSD about it. But Captain Spaulding, I adore. Then we have Mr. Bill Moseley as Otis. I met him. He's fantastic. I have an autograph, and he wrote, "I am your devil, you know, love Otis." And it is one of my prized possessions because I adore Bill Moseley. As anyone who knows his filmography knows that he was in, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I got my name from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, he wasn't in the big, you know, the first one, but anyways, I love him. Moving on, we also have Karen Black as Mother Firefly. Love her. She's amazing. William Bassett as Sheriff Frank Huston. I can't remember. Also, Rainn Wilson, Chris Hardwick. Gosh, I mean, really, the list goes on. There's, you know, several, like, recognizable faces in this. Soundtrack, I mean, writer, director, musician, guys. Regroup my brain for a minute. Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie has a lot of songs on the soundtrack, of course. I mean, duh. It's his movie. He can do what he wants. If he wants to like have every single track in the movie be his, then why not? He has the right. But we also have Buck Owens, the Commodores, you know, Brick House, you know, the Ramones. Like, look, I want to sniff some glue too. I'm just saying, you know, I want to have something to do, and that sounds like a great time. Then we have Slim Whitman. His song, I Remember You, plays in one of my favorite scenes of movie history. That scene, when I first saw it, just was, wow. It was great. It was fantastic. And then Helen Kane does "I Wanna Be Loved by You." You know the song, right? Betty Boop. I mean, come on. Fantastic. So that is our soundtrack and our cast breakdown. So I want to talk about the movie, because, like, I have notes. I've seen this movie a lot, but I still have some notes. But, you know, we open to Dr. Wolfenstein's Halloween, like, you know, movie marathon. This technically doesn't happen on Halloween. It happens the night before Halloween. But there's still Halloween celebrations happening. So we are just going to, mark that off as criteria for this month. Doesn't quite fit, but it still fits. I mean, because I know people who celebrate Halloween like the whole weekend that it happens, right? We all know those people. I'm one of those people. So during the marathon, we cut to the fabulous commercial for Captain Spaulding's, Museum of Monsters and Madmen and fried chicken. I mean, who doesn't like fried chicken, right? I mean, I live in the South. Fried chicken is where it's at, right? I mean, come on. So after we see his very funny commercial, we cut to him in his store with, one of his buddies that's in there all the time. And they're joking, back and forth, whatever. Two men come in to try and rob them. Bad idea, because they don't know how much of a, lunatic Captain Spaulding is, right? So, I mean, things happen. Rufus comes in. I think it's Rufus. Anyways, one of the Firefly family come in, and cut them down, and Spaulding shoots another. And, there's our first, real body count. I mean, we keep hearing of these missing teenagers, this cheerleading group of 5. But we don't really know at this point what's going on. So shortly after, the 2 men who wanted to rob them die, we get our first glance of the 4 teenagers that are going to have a very, very interesting night with our family. So we have, Denise, Mary, Bill, and Jerry. They need gas because Jerry, only put like $2 in the tank. You're not gonna get anywhere on $2. Even back then, $2, nothing, right? So they stop in, and, Jerry and Bill are getting their, rocks off basically about all of this neat ass weird shit they've got. We got a gator boy and just all this crazy stuff. And then they see that there's a murder ride. Of course we're gonna go on the murder ride. So during the murder ride we have Albert Fish. If you haven't heard of this serial killer, I don't suggest you look him up, because he did weird things like, stick pins in his groin and anus. It's gross. Then we have Ed Gein. If you don't know who Ed Gein are, parts of Psycho and parts of Texas Chainsaw Massacre were loosely based around his crimes and what he did. Don't look it up. It's quite disturbing. And then we get to the local legend of Dr. Satan, where, he got hung in a tree, and then the next day, no one could find the body, and no one still has found the body. And so, when Jerry hears about this, Jerry needs to go to the tree. He's like, yes, Dr. Satan! And, he's like, I've got to get to this tree. And Spaulding looks a little unnerved. And he's like, no, you don't, man. Just leave it alone, But anyways, they get directions to the Dr. Satan tree. Where, on the way, it starts raining. And they meet the lovely baby Firefly hitchhiking by the road. And she gets in and she's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. It's just over there by my house. We can totally go. Well, what they don't know is, Rufus is on the side of the road and he shoots out their tire. So now they got a flat tire. So Baby and Bill, they just walk to her house. And she's like, yeah, I'll get my brother to, like tow the car. So that's what happens, and you know, soon all the others are at the house, and we meet Mother Firefly, who is, you know, I mean, she's just as hypersexual, you know, as Baby is, just with a whole bunch of rotten teeth and older. But she encourages them to stay for dinner because it's, you know, the evening before Halloween, and, you know, it's a special time for us. We like to celebrate. So everyone is required to wear like a half of a Halloween mask at the table. Or else no dessert is what, you know, Papa says, right? Or is he Grandpa? I can't remember. Anyways, the old man, the crazy old man, right? But this is also where we meet Tiny, and then Otis comes down. But before Otis comes down, we see that he's having some fun with the cheerleaders. He's ranting at them as well as torturing them. But he comes just down in time as, you know, Jerry and Bill are asking about Dr. Satan, and he's like, I know what you want to know, you know. And Mother Firefly kind of like is like, cut it out. We're having dinner. It's going to be nice. We're having dinner. And then so after dinner, we get a show. The jokes that, you know, the old man tell aren't very good, but Jerry finds it funny. He's kind of like a mix in between, like, I don't know, just like an old senile man and, that guy that, you know, yelled a lot. I don't remember his name, but he was like fat and he yelled a lot. He was really annoying. Anyways, and then we get to Baby's part where she does, you know, the I want to be loved by you. And she's getting a little too flirty with Bill, so that pisses Denise off. And Denise is like, get off of him, you know, and starts a fight with Baby. And Baby pulls out a knife like, you know, any normal person would, right? And right about that time, before they can really come to blows, Rufus comes in and announces that the car is done. So they're like, okay, we're getting out of here, right? So they hop back in the car and they try to leave, but the gate is shut. And so Bill gets out, open the gate, and we see these two scarecrows starting to look and turn. Turns out it's Tiny and Otis, and they start, you know, beating the ever-loving crap out of Jerry and Bill and the car. And, you know, next thing we know, all of our little fun teenagers are broken up into separate areas. Not good for them. Not good for them at all. And as the movie goes, there's, you know, really like there's cutscenes to like old, like what footage that looks like they like recorded themselves, you know, of Baby, and some of it is just her dancing, and some of it is her, you know, with a knife saying different things, and Otis like his, you know, rants, because I mean he does have a god complex in, you know, most ways. So we see Denise, right? And so Denise she wakes up and she is with Tiny, right? And he lets her go. Which is nice. I mean, Tiny, out of all of them, Tiny seems to be the one that doesn't really want to do anybody harm. I think it's because he had just such a horrible, you know, existence anyways, that he just doesn't want to cause that for other people. So, Bill is turned into Fish Boy, and, you know, Mary, you know, is like, where's Bill? Where's Bill? And, you know, Otis was like, man, I had a real block, before him, but like, he's inspired me, and he pulls him out and he's like, fish boy, and who, man, like, that like mermaid situation, like, like the real mermaid or whatever that they had on display. It's like that, except for the top half is, Rainn Wilson, or, some people might know him better as, Dwight Schrute from The Office, but it's not a cute look. Not cute at all. And so Jerry is taken by Baby, and he's basically like scalped. I mean, all the skin on the top of his head is like, peeled off, and they're really not having, a good time. But everyone, in the family seems to be having like their own, special way with someone else. But like I said, Tiny lets Denise go. But unfortunately for her, she is almost pretty much immediately recaptured by Otis. She doesn't even get like really far. Meanwhile, as our teens are being tortured, Denise's dad is worried because they were supposed to, show up at his house and they haven't come. She's not answering her phone. He hasn't heard from her since, pretty late in the night before. Actually, when they stopped at the gas station for Captain Spaulding's. So he drives to where they are, right? And he gets the help of, Wydell and his deputy. And so all of them like go heading out to the last place that, he was told that she was. On the way, they find her car with a dead cheerleader in the trunk. So that's nice, right? And so the three of them decide, like, the closest, like, place to where the car was found is the Firefly family house. So they go to talk to them. While Wydell is talking to Mother Firefly, the other two, the dad and the deputy, go looking around the property, and they find a shed, and like it's locked, and so the deputy like busts it open and throws open. And this is the scene that I told you that like I really enjoy, because the whole this whole sequence takes place to that song I Remember You. So you don't like hear anything, you just hear the song and then seeing what's happening on the screen and their reactions. So Mary is, hung up by her arms to the ceiling, tortured, bloodied, she's still alive, but who knows how, right? And then we have like a bunch of dead cheerleaders around with, carvings, pentagrams, things in their chest. Now this causes the deputy and the father to lose their lunch, pretty much, right? And he's like, he's got his walkie and he's walking to Wydell about what they've seen. And when he like turns to like take care of his walkie, Mother Firefly pulls out a gun, shoots him like whoosh, right through the neck, kills him instantly. He's done. The two, the father tries to like run, and as he's running, Otis shoots him in the back. He falls down in the mud dead. The deputy like tries to get away, but I'm assuming that Otis says something to him because he like freezes in his tracks. He turns around, he gets on his knees, and there's a moment there, and like you can see it from an aerial shot of him on the ground on his knees and Otis, and like there's complete silence during all of this, just complete silence as soon as the deputy and Otis like have their like lockup, right? And not really a lockup, I mean Otis has him like, point blank gun to his head. and shoots him. And like, you don't hear anything. Like, again, it's like complete silence until, you know, the next scene. I just feel like not hearing their response and not hearing what's going on in the scene and the gunshots and things of that nature makes it feel like a little more powerful in a way. But again, it's a magnificent scene. I love how he did it. So our next scene is, you know, Baby going to get some, you know, liquor and having some rapport with Goober, the worker at the liquor store. And then Otis peeling or cutting off Denise's father's skin and wearing it like a full human. Guys, he's wearing it like a bodysuit, right? So the family gets all dressed up in, you know, Halloween gear, and they've donned clothing or costumes, bunny costumes, on the three that are still living, Denise, Mary, and Jerry. I don't know how Jerry is walking around because he looks like he's in bad shape. And they take them out to basically, like, you know, the middle of this field, right, this clearing, where there's like this big industrial like lever system that will like lower stuff into the ground. But Denise breaks away and she like takes off running, and Otis like pulled out a gun, and Baby's like, no, let me do it. So, you know, she's running, and as she's running, we're like seeing clips again of like Otis in like that sepia, like, you know, tone, and he's like, you know, saying things, but like the main thing is like, run, rabbit, run. And so she stops in like this big, like, man-made like cemetery, and basically what I'm assuming, because there's not really anybody else out there, is that this is just like a cemetery that the family has made. Not that they really necessarily care about their victims or anything, but I think it's more of like a, I don't know, like a trophy for them in a like in, you know, a way. Anyways, she gets there, she hears Baby, but she's, you know, not really sure where it's coming from, and Baby kills her in the middle of this graveyard situation. Go back to our, you know, other two, Jerry and Mary. Jerry and Mary. Anyways, they're thrown into this really big freaking coffin, right? And lowered down into the ground, where like they hit water, and then these like, I don't know, they're kind of like half dead demonic in like things. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they start like busting open, you know, the coffin and ripping at Mary and Jerry, and Mary is trying to get Jerry up and, you know, whatever, but she can't, so she like takes off. And she's roaming this underground, like, you know, cavern situation where there's like skulls just lining, you know, the whole way, until she gets to a door. And she opens the door, and it is the most like grandioso thing that I've ever seen underground. But there's like a bone chandelier, and I love the whole aesthetic of this. Like, it's amazing. But you know, everything was like made of bones. Again, it's very reminiscent of like what they said like Ed Gein's house was like, how he made furniture and things out of bones. That's what it was, you know, all the accents of the room were bones. And then she like goes into another room where we get to see Dr. Satan, and he's like this like cyborg, you know, thing. I mean, he looks like he shouldn't be alive. He looks like he's on like, you know, life support basically. But the character design of him is fantastic. I mean, he's great. But we also see that Jerry is on the table and his brain is exposed, and Dr. Satan is, I mean, messing around in there. Not really for sure what Dr. Satan wants to do, but Jerry's like coughing up blood, and, it's a messy situation. But then we see Dr. Satan's partner. They call him the professor. They don't ever say that, but like in all of the credits and everything, he's the professor. He's Mother Firefly's ex-husband and Tiny's father. He comes busting out and like chases Mary out with an axe through the underground caves and everything. And the way that their kind of like last meetup is like you can see him in the background and she's in the foreground. And the colors that he used and like to really bring out the scene was really nice. But he swings the axe to try to, kill her, and he hits a support beam for the cavern instead, and everything caves down on him. And, there goes our friend. Next scene, Mary is waking up. She sees like light on her face. It's dawn. She somehow is able to dig her way out. And and during the night while she was in the underground cavern, Otis donned his satanic red robe and his skull mask and was like, fire, and was doing some, satanic shit. And then also, like, I think it might have been Rufus or one of the other Fireflies was like doing donuts with the cop car, which I thought was funny. Like, I mean, if I'm gonna, steal a cop car, I'm gonna probably do something more than just like donuts out in a field. But hey, to each their own. But back to Mary. We think she's gonna survive. Like, she climbs out and she's like gets to the road, but Captain Spaulding picks her up, and he's trying to like relax, he's like, relax, oh my god, you're that girl that they're looking for, like, oh yeah, I'll take you to the hospital, just sit back and relax. And as soon as she starts to doze off, well, Otis like pops up, and then our next time that we see Mary, she's back in Dr. Satan's chair, screaming her little heart out. And that's the end of House of a Thousand Corpses. I mean, a lot of people say a lot of things about Rob Zombie movies. Now, let me tell you, he's one of my favorite directors, okay? One of my favorite directors, one of my favorite horror writers, one of my favorite musicians. I think what he does is fantastic. Like, we've talked about Lords of Salem. Love, love, love Lords of Salem. Fantastic. This one, super good. He had so many obstacles, like, going through filming. I mean, it changed, hands, like, production studio-wise, changed hands so often because no one wanted to touch it. They were like, this is too much. This is too much. We don't, you're gonna either have to scale back, this, that, or the other. And he didn't want, to really compromise on what he, envisioned, what he wanted to do. So just in that fact that he doesn't compromise just to suit what the, overlords, right, of the studio want from him. I love that. I love guerrilla warfare style, like, filming and shooting. Me and my lovely and talented, cameraman, we do guerrilla stuff all the time. So I love it. I love people who stick to their guns and don't let overlords decide what they can and cannot do. Anyways, so that is House of a Thousand Corpses. I'll stop ranting and tell you guys, if you follow me on Facebook, you already saw I did a spoiler alert just because, you know, it was the day that it, you know, premiered in theaters, so I wanted to give it that, you know, recognition. But we're doing Halloween 3. I'm not gonna hold up 2 because then you'll be like 6. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. You know, the only one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it. But don't fret, my lovelies. I will be doing a Michael Myers burlesque for you on Friday before. So you still get your Myers fix, just in a different way. So I will see you guys next week, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Bye.